All right, it's been 18 days since 6 boys were kidnapped from the Lagos State Model College, Ibonla Ekpe. When will they regain their freedom? It's the big question Nigerians, parents, Lagosians are asking. And we are asking that same question this morning. Little wonder we have with us in the studio a criminal justice psychologist and child rights activist, Princess Olufemi Kayode. Many thanks for joining us today on TVC Breakfast. You are a psychologist. Tell me, if you were one of the parents of those students, how would you feel right now?
Definitely, they are already in a traumatic situation. Definitely, there's panic. You're definitely wondering what will be happening to my child right now, and that's enough pain because you're beginning to imagine things that, you know, you're imagining a kind of scenario, your own created imagined scenario of what could be happening to your child. And definitely you want to really avoid horrific imaginations because you just don't want to go there. And so you want to stay safe that, okay, they are okay. But it is actually a very traumatic time for the families.
All right, let's talk about the boys themselves. In a situation where they have been kidnapped, they've been exposed to things they're not supposed to see, the environment, the people, the language, all of the horror they're going to see, what impact will this have on the boys?
Definitely, they have entered into a situation where they have no power over. And it's not part of their daily routine. Yes. You go to school, either you're in boarding or you're a day student and you're picked, and you still come back to a familiar environment. Right now, you're in an environment you have no power over, you do not understand. And so definitely the children are scared. Initially, you expect what we call fear or fighting. You're trying to fight your way out of that. But after a while, we're talking about 18 days. It's gone too far. There's a kind of helplessness where you just sit back and just assimilate what is around you, and we pray it doesn't get too long, you know, before they are, because the longer they experience, the worse, you know, it is for the children, because they end up, you know, being a kind of like I said, helplessness. And then the other thing is definitely their resilience is also, you know, being diminished.
So their spirits can be broken, really. Yeah, that's what you're saying. So let's look at the aftermath. We're praying they are let go even today as we speak, but peradventure they stay longer than necessary. What could be the aftermath, the effect on those boys?
Yeah, it says one of the things you'll be seeing, basically there are two things. It's not, like I said, the fear, flights, you know, thing, and then the other one is basically where they actually recede. You know, they just take it in, and then you have different characteristics that come out of that. There is disassociation, you know, there is surrender.
Can we take them one after the other? We have some time.
We have some time.
So let's talk about them one after the other.
Okay, we have insecurity, we have hypersensitivity.
So what does that mean, insecurity?
That means if any little sound, you see them jerking, you know, they get frightened easily. Any little thing, a drop of the cover of a bottle would cause them to jerk. And then, of course, the insecurity part of it is basically they are insecure. I don't know where I am. I don't know who the people are. And then also they begin to have suspicion for everybody, for death, against everyone, for death or destruction. It's that I'm going to die. I'm not going to come out of this. And so the fear of death. And so even when they come out of it, they still carry that fear. The fear is still with them. There is fear, and then of course also you find they get into depression, they get into post-traumatic stress disorder, which is generally, you know, what everybody will go through. And that may not manifest almost immediately. There are things that will not even manifest immediately. And then, of course, they are needed to be allowed to talk about their experiences. They don't need to be pushed to talk about it. They need to let them open up, talk.
At their own time.
At their own time. And then a loving family actually helps. And then past trauma may also trigger off, depending on the experiences of each child. If you've experienced some other form of trauma, maybe a loss of someone, accident, different kind of traumas, this might actually, you know, spiral and create, you know, some
So, but there's no damage now that can be curtailed from what we are talking about. If they come back now, whatever the experience can be taken care of.
They can be taken care of.
Are you suggesting that if they are released now, they should just be released back to the society, or get some kind of safe house for them before they are taken back to
They necessarily may not need to go to a safe house.
Okay.
They can still go back to their parents, but there's going to be what we call, there's going to be family therapy, and there's going to be their own therapy. Because the family is also traumatized. And sometimes the parents take it out on the children. And sometimes the children, you know, it's vice versa. And then we will not help the children. I mean, we will not also help the family, because the family is traumatized. The entire family, not just father. If it's a complete, you know, setup, it means father, mother, brothers and sisters, everybody is traumatized already. And because they're all traumatized, you begin to find different bounce, you know, things bounce back. You know, the parents are feeling guilty. The some children feel guilty at a point also that I may have contributed to this happening to me. Meanwhile, of course, that is not true, but it's the series of thoughts that go through their mind, and where they're, like we said, we don't even know what they're going through. So the experiences they're going through also would impact, depending on the level of destructive, you know, scenario that they find themselves in.
So on May the 25th, 6 boys were abducted from a model college in Ngbola. Today's makes it 18 days and no news from the camp of the abductors.
Winifred Ajowale gives a timeline of the incident.
I want my son.
18 days ago, 6 students of the Lagos State Model College, Igbonlaikpe, were abducted from their school by a kidnap ring. Last year, students of the same school were kidnapped, and after their release, the state government deployed security men to the school. But the men were not deterred by the presence of the security operatives, as reports say the kidnappers, who came by boats, engaged in a gun battle with men of the anti-kidnapping squad, leaving 1 officer dead and several injured. After the incident, the school was closed to safeguard the remaining students and give the police time to investigate the case. Security expert Ono Ekomo, who was on TVC Breakfast, the early morning program on TVC News, says it is a case of medicine after death, and the government should do all in its power to guard the school and stop happenings like this one.
My concern is, how do we prevent? It's more of preventive controls. For example, this school had been hit. It was hit just October here. And to say that up till now, they didn't know that they needed to shore up security, rather than perhaps thinking about relocating schools. We can't relocate schools.
For Kechukwu Waguma, a security analyst, the security of the students and staff must be taken seriously, even if it means relocating the school.
I do hope that the police will indeed, like they promised, rescue these children safely and then take measures to permanently end this, even if it means relocating that school, because this is located at the back of the creeks.
Meanwhile, parents of the abducted students were given a deadline to pay 20 million naira ransom on each of the students, and the kidnappers had threatened to relocate the students if their demands were not met.
If I have the money they're asking for, I won't bring my son to that school.
While some analysts say the ransom is targeted at the Lagos state government, the government says it would not negotiate with the kidnappers. The school where the students were kidnapped has now been reopened, and the Lagos state government has increased security there, even with efforts being doubled up with a view to securing the release of the students. The question on the lips of traumatized parents is, when will the students be released? Winifred Ajowale, TVC News.
Very traumatizing experience for parents and even all those who are involved, and even the boys themselves. We still have a Princess Olufemi Kayode with us in the studio. Now, Princess, let's get this now. The parents, you were talking about, if the children have parents who can, form a nest for the children to come back, it can help them recover. Yeah. But in a situation where they don't have those kind of parents that have understanding of what the psychological treatment and all of that is, a loving family, what happens? How does that compound the situation of the boys?
It's not going to help the children. We're talking about long-term impact on their lives. it's just like any other form of trauma anyway. You have trauma, you need that kind of bonding, that kind of love environment, that kind of understanding environment that will help you, not those who would actually compound the situation. And you know, because it's not a physical thing, it's not really something you see on the outside, it's internal. And then in their minds, which is still very young, it's very, very problematic if they go through that. Like, you know, like she said earlier, should they go to a safe house? That will also depend on what we're looking at, emergency structures in the country. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing kidnapping. So it's not like it's the first time. And attacking the same school is not even the first time we're seeing that. We've seen that in the north. Same schools being attacked and children being kidnapped and taken away. And we're still not as prepared in how do we manage mental health issues. Because we're talking about mental health here. We're not talking about the physical wound. Let's say they were beaten. That's physical. They'll come in, they'll go through treatment, injuries, and then we're talking about things that impact the soul of human beings. And it's, no matter how normal you look on the outside, you're just not together on the inside. And no matter what you do, at the time, it could trigger off anything. And you can end up finding these children also becoming that aggressive and that manipulating.
You have a continuous circle.
Yeah, because of what they have witnessed that was not properly dealt with when they were much younger. So we need to really, you know, fix into all our responses. There needs to be that therapy thing that has to go. And it's important, whether they are guardians or their parents. Because you know how our society, our children may actually be living with guardians, they may be stepped, they may be, so whatever home they go back to, all of them need therapy.
We are talking about the boys are kidnapped. What about the boys still in the school? You're also a child rights activist. Tell us how safe they are, how safe the environment is, even for those who are still in the school. It's
that one, in terms of rights, we are seeing a lot of child rights abuses actually going on. We're seeing, from what we just heard from the news, the school has been reopened. What are the guarantees? These are questions. What are the guarantees that it's safe? Having soldiers around with guns does not make me safe. It actually heightens another effect for the children who are there. So they are there because, and I'm sure not every child will be there. There are parents that will not release their children to go back. That's the truth. But there are those who say, we have no other choice. You heard one of them say, if I had 20 million to give, why would I bring my child to this school? You know, I'll put my child in another kind of school. But then, the issue of safe schools is not just about this particular school, it's just about all the schools generally. Whether that's to say public, even private schools. There need to be a more enforced, you know, either laws or either a mandate from the state governor himself, because he can do that. And we see that there are certain parameters, there are certain things that have to be instilled in a school to say a school is safe.
In a Senate climate, even the government or the school could be sued even based on that.
Yes, definitely. Parents can actually sue them, civil cases, and get their money. That's the issue of rights that we don't understand in the country. That I put my child in your school. There's a level of safety I expect within the timeline that my child will be in your school, and that goes across all schools, private and public. You are responsible for my child in that period. If anything happens to my child within that period, you're responsible for it.
Well, I wonder if the system within where we find ourselves now is ripe enough for people to, if they are justiciable enough.
It is. It is just like they say, the ignorance of the law does not give you any excuse. But we don't know. We keep dishing out these laws. The people themselves do not understand the laws. I know very well with the child rights, children have been taught a lot, particularly in the state of Lagos State. There's been much exposure. We won't say all of them, but there's much exposure on child rights issue. But in terms of a parent knowing that child protection issues and child safety, when I drop my child in your school, within that period, if anything happens to my child, you are liable, whether it's public or private. And I think it's time parents begin to understand that they can actually come together and actually sue. My child was taken in your care. God help you, nothing happens to this child. And we're still talking about God help you, that's I'm talking of death. But even psychological damage can actually be also sued for.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Princess
Olufemi Kayode.
Well, it's just a point of knowledge, getting more enlightened about these things. Princess Olufemi Kayode, a psychologist and a child rights activist. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.